Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to day 11 of our Bhakti Vaibhava seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam 4th Canto. And we are getting towards the end of the 6th chapter, which is titled Brahma Satisfies Lord Shiva. Okay, let's begin though by chanting our prayers. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastya Chadeshatarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchikalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha, patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So now we come to the 5th section and final section, verse 41 to verse 53. Titled, Lord Brahma Addresses Lord Shiva. 41. All the sages who were sitting with Lord Shiva, such as Narada and others, also offered their respectful obeisances to Lord Brahma. After being so worshipped, Lord Brahma, smiling, began to speak to Lord Shiva. 42. My dear Lord Shiva, I know that you're the controller of the entire material manifestation, the combination, father and mother, of the cosmic manifestation, and the supreme Brahman beyond the cosmic manifestation as well. I know you in that way. 43. My dear Lord, you create this cosmic manifestation, maintain it and annihilate it by expansion of your personality, exactly as a spider creates, maintains, and winds up its web. 44. My dear Lord, your Lordship has introduced the system of sacrifices through the agency of Daksha, and thus one may derive the benefits of religious activities and economic development. Under your regulative principles, the institution of the 4 varnas and ashrams is respected. The Brahmins, therefore, vow to follow the system strictly. 45. O most auspicious Lord, you've ordained the heavenly planets, the spiritual Vaikuntha planets, and the impersonal Brahman sphere as the respective destinations of the performers of auspicious activities. Similarly, for others who are miscreants, you've destined different kinds of hells, which are horrible and ghastly. Yet sometimes it is found that their destinations are just the opposite. It is very difficult to ascertain the cause of this. 46. My dear Lord, persons who have fully dedicated their lives unto your lotus feet certainly observe your presence as Paramatma in each and every being, and as such they do not differentiate between one living being and another. Such persons treat all living entities equally. They never become overwhelmed by anger like animals, who can see nothing without differentiation. 47. Persons who observe everything with differentiation, who are simply attached to fruitive activities, who are mean-minded, who are always pained to see the flourishing condition of others, and who thus give distress to them by uttering harsh and piercing words. So those people have already been killed by providence. Thus there's no need for them to be killed again by an exalted personality like you. 48. My dear Lord, if in some places materialists who are already bewildered by the insurmountable illusory energy of the Godhead, of the Supreme Godhead, if they sometimes commit offenses, a saintly person with compassion does not take this seriously. Knowing that they commit offenses because they're overpowered by the illusory energy, he does not show his prowess to counteract them. 49. My dear Lord, you are never bewildered by the formidable influence of the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore you are omniscient and should be merciful and compassionate toward those who are bewildered by the same illusory energy and are very much attached to fruitive activities. 50. My dear Lord Shiva, you are a shareholder of a portion of the sacrifice, and you are the giver of the result. The bad priests did not deliver your share, and therefore you destroyed everything, and the sacrifice remains unfinished. Now you can do the needful and take your rightful share. 51. My dear Lord, by your mercy, the performer of the sacrifice, King Daksha, may get back his life. Bhaga may get back his eyes, Brigu his moustache, and Pusha his teeth. 52. O Lord Shiva, may the demigods and the priests, whose limbs have been broken by your soldiers, recover from the injuries by your grace. 53. O destroyer of the sacrifice, please take your portion of the sacrifice and let the sacrifice be completed by your grace. 41. All the sages who are sitting with Lord Shiva, such as Narada and others, also offered their respectful obeisances to Lord Brahma. After being so worshipped, Lord Brahma, smiling, began to speak to Lord Shiva. Okay, so Lord Brahma was smiling because he knew that Lord Shiva is not only easily pleased, but he's easily irritated also. Right. And he was afraid Lord Shiva might be angry, having just lost his wife and having been insulted by Daksha. So in order to conceal this fear, he smiled and addressed Lord Shiva as follows, smile like creating a positive sort of mood and atmosphere. So Lord Brahma said, my dear Lord Shiva, I know that you're the controller of the entire material manifestation, the combination father and mother of the cosmic manifestation, and the Supreme Brahman beyond the cosmic manifestation as well. I know you in that way. So Srila Prabhupada gives short purport. Although Brahma had received respectful obeisances from Lord Shiva, Brahma knows that Shiva is more elevated than himself. And Prabhupada refers to Brahma Samhita which describes Lord Shiva as being like yogurt in relation to milk. That yogurt is not different from the original milk from which it is made. Yeah. 43. My dear Lord, you create this cosmic manifestation, maintain it and annihilate it by expansion of your personality, exactly as a spider creates, maintains, and winds up its web. So, okay, let's see what Prabhupada says. In the purport, Prabhupada says that in this verse, the Sanskrit, the word Shiva Shakti is significant. Shiva, of course, means auspicious. Shakti means energy. And the thing is that the Lord has many types of energies, and they're all auspicious. Yeah. And then there are the guna avatars, the presiding deities, incarnations of the material qualities. Yes. And they're all auspicious. They're all auspicious. I mean, the incarnations are always auspicious. Although sometimes, the guna avatars are always auspicious. Although sometimes we consider one mode better than another. Generally, of course, ignorance is the lowest, but in the higher sense, it's also auspicious. Prabhupada gives an example. The government has different departments, including the educational and criminal departments. So someone may consider the criminal department, the prison, the police and all that, to be the criminal department is inauspicious, but from the government's point of view, it is as auspicious as the education department and any other department. It's as important, the criminal department, as the education department or any department. And the government finances the prison criminal department equally, along with all the other departments. Verse 44. My dear Lord, your Lordship has introduced the system of sacrifices through the agency of Daksha, and thus one may derive the benefits of religious activities and economic development. Under your regulative principles, the institution of the 4 varnas and ashrams is respected. The Brahmins therefore vow to follow the system strictly. Okay. So Prabhupada begins the purport by saying that varnashram is never to be neglected. It's created by the Lord for the upkeep of human society. And that Brahmins, as the heads, the intelligent class of men, it's very important that they respect varnashram and the upkeep of varnashram and respect it properly. Because the tendency in Kali Yuga is to make a classless society, not bother about varna and ashram. But Prabhupada says this is an impossible dream. Destruction, if people try to destroy these social and spiritual orders, it won't bring fulfillment of the idea of a classless society. It'll just bring chaos. So therefore varnashram must strictly be observed for the pleasure of the Lord. All the different orders, spiritual, social, must do their duties to satisfy the Lord. As parts of the body serve the whole body. And the whole body, of course, is the Lord in his universal form. So therefore the Brahmins must engage in service of the complete whole. Then their position will be secure. Otherwise they'll fall down and become degraded. Verse 45, O most auspicious Lord, you have ordained the heavenly planets, the spiritual Vaikuntha planets, and the impersonal Brahman sphere as the respective destinations of the performers of auspicious activities. Similarly, for others who are miscreants, you have destined different kinds of hells, which are horrible and ghastly. Yet sometimes it is found that their destinations are just the opposite. It is very difficult to ascertain the cause of this. Okay, so in the purport, Prabhupada begins by saying that the Lord is sometimes called the Supreme Will, and by this will, his supreme will, everything is going on. Not a blade of grass can move without it. Generally, pious people go to higher planets, devotees to Vaikuntha, impersonalists to the Brahma Jyoti. This is going on under the supervision of the Lord. But then sometimes you get a miscreant like a Jamil somehow goes to Vaikuntha simply by chanting. So many people cannot just follow that. How did a Jamil go to Vaikuntha? So, because even when he chanted the name Narayan, it's the name of the Lord, that's good, but he meant his son. But still the Lord is so kind, he took it all seriously and took him to Vaikuntha, despite his sinful background. So similarly, Daksha always did pious things, and that was his general way of life. But then somehow or other his lower nature became stimulated in this whole situation with Lord Shiva. And because of that, what Prabhupada calls here a little misunderstanding with Lord Shiva, he was punished severely. So the conclusion is that the supreme will is the ultimate judgment. No one can argue about this. And therefore a pure devotee always submits to the supreme will of the Lord, accepting it as all auspicious. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, chapter 14, verse 8 is quoted. Tatena kampam susamikshamano bunjana evatma kritam vipakam ridvagva purbir vidadan namaste jiveti yomet mukti padesa dayabak. One of the very important verses, and particularly in this regard. So Prabhupada doesn't exactly translate it directly, but he gives a sort of a paraphrasing, a purport. Prabhupada says the purport of this verse is that when a devotee is in a calamitous condition, he takes it as a benediction of the Supreme Lord and takes responsibility himself for his past deeds. That I'm being corrected for some nonsense I did, my past misdeeds. And this being corrected is mercy, it's a benediction from the Lord. So in such a condition, Prabhupada says, the devotee does even more devotional service, offers still more devotional service, and is not disturbed. So one who lives like this, engaged in devotional service, is the most eligible candidate, the most eligible candidate for going to the spiritual world. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, in other words, such a devotee's claim for promotion to the spiritual world is assured in all circumstances. Amazing. Verse 46. My dear Lord, devotees who have fully dedicated their lives unto your lotus feet certainly observe your presence as Paramatma in each and every living being, and as such, they do not differentiate between one living being and another. Such persons treat all living entities equally. They never become overwhelmed by anger like animals who can see nothing without differentiation. Okay, so there's a purport here, verse 46. Prabhupada explains that when the Lord becomes angry and kills a demon, which he does, doesn't he? Isn't it? He really does. Many demons the Lord kills. Materially it may appear unfavorable. I mean, basically, when anyone is killed, it looks unfavorable, inauspicious. Yeah. But spiritually, in this case, in these cases, it's a benediction for the demons. So therefore, pure devotees don't distinguish between the Lord's anger and the Lord's blessings. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, they see both with reference to the Lord's behavior with others and themselves. A devotee does not find fault with the behavior of the Lord in any circumstances. Let me just read that last sentence. A devotee does not find fault with the behavior of the Lord in any circumstances. Verse 47. Persons who observe everything with differentiation, who are simply attached to fruitive activities, who are mean-minded, who are always pained to see the flourishing condition of others, and who thus give distress to them by uttering harsh and piercing words, have already been killed by providence. Thus there's no need for them to be killed again by an exalted personality like you. So, that's for Daksha. Well, that's for Lord Shiva. Okay. So let's have a look at the purport here. It's a fairly substantial purport. Materialistic people, they're always trying to get ahead to make a profit. So they hate to see others doing well, becoming successful. Except for the devotees. Other than the devotees, people feel like that when some contemporary or someone who's sort of connected with them or just someone does well, they become envious. They don't like it. But devotees, when devotees see that, particularly when they see other devotees are making progress, the devotees become very happy and inspired, non-envious. But the materialists, they're perpetually full of anxieties because they're envious. They're attached to the body and they have no self-realization at all. So because their hearts are always full of anxiety, it's understood that they've already been killed by providence. So therefore Brahma is telling Lord Shiva that don't kill Daksha. Don't kill Daksha. And of course Daksha's already dead. But the devotee is described as paradukkha dukhi, because although he's never distressed by any situation in the material world, but he is distressed when he sees that others are distressed. So therefore devotees should not try to kill by any action of the body or mind, but should try to revive people's Krishna consciousness out of compassion. And this Krishna consciousness movement has been started to deliver the envious people. Yes. So even though devotees are sometimes put into trouble, but they push on with the Krishna consciousness movement tolerantly. Trinada pisa nichena, Tarora pisa hishnuna, Amanina manadena kirtaniya, Sudahari. So of course we all know the translation of that verse. One can chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So there's a second, very short second paragraph here. And Prabhupada makes the point that we as devotees, we should follow the examples of devotees who were like that, tolerant when they're put into difficulty, and just pushed on with Krishna consciousness. Devotees like Haridas Thakur, Lord Nityananda, Jesus. And there's no need to kill anyone who's already been killed. Yeah. What you going to do? But still we must note, Prabhupada makes the point, that a Vaishnav must not tolerate blasphemy of the Lord or other Vaishnavas, but should tolerate insults to himself. Right, on we go, verse 48. My dear Lord, if in some places materialists who are already bewildered by the insurmountable illusory energy of the Supreme Godhead, if those materialists sometimes commit offenses, a saintly person with compassion does not take this seriously. Knowing that they commit offenses because they're overpowered by the illusory energy, he does not show his prowess to counteract them. So, in the purport here, Srila Prabhupada begins the purport by making a really nice point. It is said that the beauty of a tapasvi, an austere person, a saintly person, is forgiveness. And there are many examples in spiritual history of the world in which saintly people, although they were unnecessarily harassed and just mistreated, but they didn't take any action, although they could have. And first example, Maharaj Parikshit, he accepted the curse of Shringi. He took it as Krishna's plan, and it was. And Maharaj Parikshit agreed to accept it as Krishna's plan, so that the Bhagavatam could be spoken. So the Vaishnav is personally tolerant. The Vaishnav is personally tolerant for the benefit of others. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, when he does not show his prowess, this does not mean that he's lacking in strength. Rather, it indicates that he is tolerant for the welfare of the entire human society. Okay, on we go to verse 49. My dear Lord, you are never bewildered by the formidable influence of the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you are omniscient and should be merciful and compassionate toward those who are bewildered by the same illusory energy and are very much attached to fruitive activities. So Srila Prabhupada begins the purport by pointing out that devotees are never bewildered by the actions of Maya. How's that? Because they're always engaged in devotional service, and therefore they're always under the protection of the Lord. Prabhupada then quotes Bhagavad Gita chapter 7 verse 14, very important. Daiviyesh gurumai mama maya dharachya mameviye prapajante mayam etam taranti te, which translates as, my divine energy consisting of the three modes of material nature is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So as devotees, Vaishnavas should take care of those who are in Maya, should really try to help the fallen conditioned souls, rather than become angry with them because of, particularly some not very significant nonsense activity they may do. Not become angry. Because without the Vaishnav's mercy, they're never going to get out of Maya. Therefore, those who are condemned by Maya are rescued by the mercy of the devotees. And then Prabhupada quotes Vaishnava pranams. Vanchakalpatarubhyas chakri prasindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They're just like desire trees who can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they're full of compassion for the fallen, conditioned souls. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, those under Maya, those who are under the influence of Maya, they're attracted to fruitive activities, but the Vaishnav preacher attracts their hearts to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Verse 50. My dear Lord Shiva, you're a shareholder of a portion of the sacrifice, and you are the giver of the result. The bad priests did not deliver your share, and therefore you destroyed everything, and the sacrifice remains unfinished. Now you can do the needful and take your rightful share. So there's no purport here to verse 50. And indeed, 51 and 52 also, let us just read through them. My dear Lord, by your mercy, the performer of the sacrifice, King Daksha, may get back his life. Bhaga may get back his eyes, Bhrigu his moustache, and Pusha his teeth. Yes, 52. O Lord Shiva, may the demigods and the priests, whose limbs have been broken by your soldiers, recover from the injuries by your grace. 53. O destroyer of the sacrifice, please take your portion of the sacrifice and let the sacrifice be completed by your grace. There's a purport here, and it's a major purport. It really is. So, a sacrifice, Prabhupada begins by defining what's a sacrifice. It's a ceremony performed for pleasing the Lord. And Prabhupada refers to 1st Canto, 2nd chapter, where it's stated that everyone should try to understand if the Lord is satisfied by their activities. Or in other words, the aim of our activities should be to satisfy the Lord. And it's a very simple principle, just like if you're working for the boss, then the goal is to please the boss. And then if you please the boss, he'll look after you. So in the Vedic literatures, there are many activities which are described for satisfying the Lord. And executing such activities is called yajna. So therefore, Prabhupada says, acting on behalf of the Supreme Lord is yajna. And one should know very clearly, any other type of activity not done on behalf of the Lord or to please the Lord, it's just going to be the end. Right. And Prabhupada refers to Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, verse 9. He quotes half of it. Yagyartat karmanon yatra lokayam karma bandhana. Karma bandhana means if we don't work for the satisfaction of the Lord, then the reaction of our work will bind us. So therefore one should not work for one's sense gratification, but work for the satisfaction of the Lord. Right, so second paragraph. So after the yajna was performed by Daksha, all the demigods expected prasadam, which had been offered to Lord Vishnu. And Lord Shiva is one of the demigods. He expected prasadam, but Daksha, of course. Anyway, we know the story by now vividly. Because of his envy, didn't invite him to the yajna, didn't give him his share of the offerings. But after the destruction of the yajna arena, Lord Brahma pacified Lord Shiva, that as he's done just now actually, that don't worry, you'll get your share. So then he was requested, as we just read, to rectify the destruction caused by his followers. So now on to the third paragraph. Prabhupada refers to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 11. All demigods are satisfied when we perform yajna. And the demigods expect prasadam from the yajna. So anyway, those who engage in the material activity for sense gratification They have to do yajna. If they don't do yajna, they'll be implicated in the reactions. So now, well anyway, Daksha, being the father of mankind, was performing yajna, and Shiva expected his share. But because he wasn't invited, didn't get his share, there was trouble. And now mediation is happening. This is ISKCON Resolve, the original ISKCON Resolve, trying to sort out these hard feelings and these sort of get these offenses overcome. So Prabhupada makes the point in the 4th paragraph. It's really a major paragraph, purport. That yajna, in that traditional fire yajna sense, is very difficult because all the demigods must be invited, not just invited, they must come. So in Kali Yuga it's not possible to get the demigods to come. So we should just do Sankirtan yajna. And then the demigods and everyone will be happy. If we don't do yajna, if people don't do yajna, then the universal functions will not work properly. And the more people get separated and just sort of stop doing yajnas, then the more life in general is going to become chaotic, as we see. So we should do Sankirtan yajna. We should invite people, chant Hare Krishna, and then distribute prasadam. And in this way, demigods will be satisfied. Peace and prosperity will be there. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, another difficulty in performing the Vedic rituals is that if one fails to satisfy even one demigod out of the many hundreds of thousands of demigods, just as Daksha failed to satisfy Lord Shiva, there will be disaster. But in this age, the performance of sacrifice has been simplified. We just chant Hare Krishna, and by pleasing Krishna, one can satisfy all the demigods automatically. Okay, devotees, so there you go. That was chapter 6 of the 4th canto. So now we're on to chapter 7. Okay, so chapter 7 is titled The Sacrifice Performed by Daksha. And it's one of the bigger chapters. There's 61 verses. So it's a pretty substantial chapter. Let's just run through the sections and just have a look at the sections. So first section is from verse 1 to verse 7. We call this Lord Shiva responds to Brahma's requests and is invited to the yajna arena. Second section is verse 8 and verse 9. And this is Daksha is given the head of a goat. Talk about driving home the lesson. So you'll never forget the lesson. Daksha's given the head of a goat. So anytime he looks in the mirror, he'll be reminded, oh, the offenses I committed. So third section is verse 10 to verse 15. Daksha offers prayers to Lord Shiva. Now we have another short section 4, verse 16, verse 17, the yajna begins again. And then the fifth section, there are 9 altogether. From verse 18 to verse 25, Lord Narayan appears at the yajna. Then the sixth section is really long, verse 26 to verse 48. Everyone offers prayers to Lord Narayan. So, number 7, section 7, verse 49 to verse 57, Lord Narayan addresses Daksha and is worshipped by him, by Daksha, and is worshipped by him. Section 8, verse 58 to verse 59, Lord Shiva and Sati are reunited. Hare Krishna. And finally, verse 60 and verse 61, these are the 9th. This is the 9th section, verse 60 to verse 61. Blessings for those who hear and narrate this pastime. So we'll stop here, devotees, and we'll continue on tomorrow. Tomorrow would be what? Tomorrow would be day 12. Okay, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.